This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. I am not a licensed financial advisor. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Harvard researchers found that financial stress reduces cognitive function by roughly 13 IQ points. That's equivalent to losing a full night of sleep. This isn't a metaphor. It is a measurable effect on how your brain processes information. And it means that the moment money gets tight, your brain becomes less equipped to make the decisions that would fix it. That is not an accident. That is a mechanism. And once you understand it, you'll never look at financial struggle the same way again. The scarcity mindset is a concept developed by behavioral economist Sendil Mullainathan and psychologist Eldar Shafir. Their research demonstrated something deeply counterintuitive. The experience of not having enough, whether money, time, or any other resource, actually changes how the brain processes information. When you're in scarcity, your attention narrows. The brain becomes hyper-focused on the immediate problem and loses capacity for planning, perspective, and long-term reasoning. This is adaptive in the short term. If you're about to miss rent, tunnel vision on rent makes sense. But over time, this same cognitive response undermines the broader financial decisions that would change the situation. The people who most need good financial decision-making are, by definition, under the kind of stress that makes good financial decision-making hardest. This isn't an excuse, it's a mechanism. And knowing it exists is the beginning of working around it. Mullainathan and Shafir introduced the concept of cognitive bandwidth, the mental capacity available for thinking, planning, and exercising self-control. Bandwidth is finite, and scarcity consumes it. In their studies, low-income participants who were prompted to think about financial hardship, asked to imagine handling an unexpected car repair, performed significantly worse on subsequent cognitive tests compared to those who hadn't been prompted. The financial worry itself consumed mental resources, leaving less available for everything else. This explains patterns that are frequently dismissed as poor character. Why do people under financial stress make impulsive purchases? Why do they struggle to plan ahead? Why do they choose the immediate reward over the long-term benefit? It's not because they don't understand delayed gratification. It's because the cognitive weight of financial stress has already consumed much of the capacity required for careful reasoning. Mullainathan calls this the bandwidth tax, an involuntary cognitive cost imposed by scarcity. Unlike income taxes, you don't choose to pay it. It's automatic. It doesn't care whether you're aware of it, and it applies across the income spectrum. High earners facing financial stress, from unexpected expenses, over-leveraged debt, or depleted savings, experience the same bandwidth depletion. The mechanism doesn't discriminate. It responds to the subjective experience of not having enough, regardless of the objective numbers. Scarcity doesn't just tax bandwidth. It also produces what researchers call tunneling, an intense narrowing of focus onto the immediate problem at the expense of everything else. When money is tight, urgent always wins over important. The late bill gets paid. The retirement contribution gets skipped. The payday loan gets taken because it solves today's problem, regardless of what it costs next month. Tunneling creates a compounding feedback loop. The decisions made while tunneling, high-interest debt, skipped investments, deferred maintenance, create new problems down the road. Those new problems increase scarcity. The scarcity deepens the tunneling, and the cycle continues. This is why financial hardship can feel genuinely inescapable from the inside, even when people on the outside can see the way out clearly. The outside observers have bandwidth. They can see the full landscape. The person inside the tunnel cannot, not because they're less intelligent, but because their cognitive resources are being consumed by the immediate pressure. Researchers also identified what they call the scarcity trap, the tendency to borrow from the future to solve present problems. Skip the savings, use the credit card, defer the necessary expense. Each of these solves today's problem while making tomorrow's more severe, which deepens the original scarcity and has an uncomfortable implication that doesn't get discussed enough. The systems built around low-income populations often exploit the cognitive state that poverty creates, rather than accounting for it. Payday loan companies cluster in low-income areas specifically because tunneling makes short-term, high-cost products more appealing. The bandwidth to evaluate the true annual interest rate, sometimes exceeding 300%, isn't available. The brain evaluates only, does this solve the immediate problem? And it does. Government assistance programs, debt relief services, and financial education resources are frequently designed with high cognitive demand. Complex applications, long waiting periods, extensive documentation requirements. These are precisely the kinds of tasks that require high bandwidth, delivered at exactly the moment when bandwidth is most depleted. Even well-intentioned financial literacy programs often fail, not because their content is wrong, but because they're delivered to people who don't have the mental space to process and apply it. Information isn't the bottleneck. Bandwidth is. The scarcity mindset doesn't only keep people poor. The infrastructure around financial hardship frequently reinforces the cycle. Here's what the research actually supports. 1. Automate decisions before bandwidth is depleted. The worst time to make financial decisions is when you're stressed, tired, or under pressure, which is exactly when most people make them. Set up automated transfers for savings, debt payments, and bill pay on a fixed schedule. Remove these decisions from the moment and put them on a system. 2. Build Slack. Mullainathan's research identified Slack as the most powerful antidote to the scarcity cycle. Even a small buffer, $500 in an emergency account, dramatically reduces the cognitive impact of unexpected expenses. The fund doesn't need to be large. It needs to exist before the emergency arrives. 3. Simplify your financial environment. Every financial account, payment, and recurring decision consumes bandwidth. Consolidate where possible. Automate what you can. Reduce the number of active financial choices in your day. Bandwidth freed from complexity is bandwidth available for better decisions. 4. Design for your worst-case cognitive state. Motivational advice assumes you have bandwidth available. Good financial system design doesn't make that assumption. Set up your finances so that the default action, doing nothing, produces the right outcome. Contribute to retirement automatically. Save first. Spend what's left. Make the smart choice the path of least resistance. The most important thing to understand about the scarcity mindset is that it is not a character flaw. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of discipline or ambition or intelligence. It is a cognitive response to a real condition, one that has been documented in controlled research, replicated across cultures, and observed across income levels. That matters because the solution is different depending on how you understand the problem. If you believe financial struggle is a character issue, you try to fix it with willpower. But willpower runs on bandwidth, and bandwidth is exactly what scarcity takes away. The path forward is structural. Reduce the cognitive load. Build slack. Automate the right decisions. Create a financial environment where you don't have to rely on bandwidth you may not have. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. The work is building systems that account for that. Subscribe to Broke Thinking if you want to keep understanding how your mind shapes your money. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, we publish videos on the psychological patterns that drive financial behavior, the ones nobody else is talking about. We'll see you next time.